Welcome to the Goodfella podcast.
Goodfella. All right, everybody, welcome to the Goodfella podcast.
Hello.
I feel like I have the same intro every time.
Yeah, we kind of do, but I like it.
Consistency.
Yes.
Consistency.
We need that in our lives.
How you doing, Bo? How you feeling?
I'm good. This heat is crazy.
Yo, weather changing though. Like the climate was insane. Like the
rainy season?
The rainy season was insane.
This heat is insane.
Absolutely preposterous.
Oh my god.
Absolutely preposterous because
Very.
It's like, I keep having to change clothes 2-3 times a day, or then not being able to dress for like the day and night at the same time.
Clothes.
And that's the thing too, because you gotta dress for both day and night if you're gonna be out all day, right?
Because during the day it's really hot, during the night it's cold.
Actually, it's like a weird pattern. So it's like cold in the morning, and then around like 9ish, it gets like super hot. It's hot until like 5?
No, like 4. It starts getting windy around 4, and then
it's like super cold. So windy,
and windy.
super cold.
My skin hates it.
My lips are so dry. It is unbelievable. Like,
I don't think I've used this much chapstick in my life.
Yo, there's not enough Carmex to save my lips right now, like in the world. Insane.
Anyways,
ladies and gentlemen, today's topic is going to be a little bit about what we do and kind of seeing the
creative
environment.
sector.
Yes.
Creatives.
Goodfella. That's what I felt like you were saying for some reason.
Yeah. So for those of you that are just joining us, welcome. For those of you that have listened to our first podcast, thank you so much.
Yes, and make sure you like, subscribe, and share, and also comment and engage so that we can be able to provide a better podcast and episode every time. Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah, we're trying to do bigger and better, so help us do bigger and better.
Yes, let's do this. So,
yes,
creatives.
Ma'am. Yes, creatives. First off, to anybody, I guess, that didn't hear the first podcast, I don't want to get repetitive, obviously, but do you want to just, like, give them a brief on what we do as people?
So I'm Adiam.
Hi, girl.
And we are both in the creative sector.
Yes, ma'am.
We're both event organizers. We manage artists. Of course, we have a podcast. We do event management, coordination, curation, all that good stuff.
Yes. Yeah, essentially. And we work together a lot, so a lot of it is, I guess our experiences are similar. Also, we've worked kind of like separately for a very long time, so we also come from sort of different backgrounds in terms of like some of the things that we've experienced and done.
Exactly.
So here's to sharing experiences and sharing knowledge and, all that good stuff.
So if you guys can already tell, we're very in sync.
Yeah.
And we have a really good vibe going on.
Vibrations, guys.
Let's hope you're on our level.
All right. So, we said we wanted to talk about creatives. We are creatives. We are freelancers. And there's kind of like a long list of things that we definitely get into. But just to like start off, I think, what would you say are...
I'm really sorry, I'm going to stop you.
No worries.
You have to tell our new listeners who you are because you haven't mentioned
I didn't
your
even say my name. Oh, damn, I'm sorry. Hi, guys. Let's revert back. My name is Milu.
Hi, Milu.
Hey, girl. I pretty much do everything that she'd mentioned already, apart from also some other journalistic media stuff. We're just excited to be here.
Also, she has a Thursday live on Instagram called Cocktails with Milu. So follow her at Milu Presents on Instagram and tune in. It's every Thursday.
Look at my baby plugging me in, guys.
Girl, I have to.
You got me blushing. But so definitely do that. Also, definitely feel free to let me know if y'all want to talk about something specifically. My lives are usually around stuff that's going in Addis and in the diaspora, or things that literally we're just like thinking about.
Mostly about the youth, which is things we need to talk about.
Yeah, exactly. Kind of like where our heads are at on so many things that are going on. So whatever y'all want to talk about, let me know. Tap in when we're on the live.
Yes. And it's so much fun. You guys want to join. Trust me.
Yeah, and always
take my word for it.
All right, so getting to the topic at hand, I was asking you, so what do you feel like I think are some of the hardships of being a creative and a freelancer here in Addis?
Whew, long list. Yeah, but so from my experience, most of the challenges have been finding people to work with, finding the right sponsors, and finding venues and all that legal aspect of things. For those of you who are in this business, you'd know what I mean, but the legal aspect of things. And we'll get more into it as we keep talking. But yeah, so the biggest problem has been finding the right people to work with. Because from my experience, it has been where you would go talk to people and you'd share your idea, and then you say, oh, like, I have this idea and it's supposed to be so and so and so and this and this and this and that. And people be like, yeah, sure, I'm so excited. Let's do this. Let's work together.
Hella energy.
Yeah. And then you're like, oh my God, I found people to work with. And then a week later or 2 weeks later, you'll see the same poster with your idea with, you know, similar. And it's the same people you went and talked to that are doing this. And I'm like, what? I thought we were on the same page. We're working together. Okay, if you say so.
Yeah.
Good luck. I'm going to come to your event and support. But yeah, you know who you are and what you did.
Like, I'm not about to name names
No.
and, you know, put your shit out there, but you know who you are.
Yes. But that has been the most difficult thing, where copycats or people that steal ideas. And the creative sector is so small in Addis that we are just a small group of people.
That's also true. Like, I definitely can say I know like 70% of the event organizers in Addis.
Yeah.
Like, and that's putting it lightly, you know.
So we're a small group. We work, like, we're going to run into each other. We're going to work together a lot. Why are
You
we
gonna
doing-
buy me a tequila shot next Thursday, so you know I'm gonna find you somewhere.
Yeah.
Like,
So why are we doing this? Why are we so afraid of working together? Why are we always seeing each other as competition?
wait, I have a
don't get
question
it.
for you though. Like, I mean, because we definitely can go into the whys, but there's something that, like I said, I thought about when you're saying that is, we also are not in the culture of, because I've heard the same stories and I think I've been through the same stories when it comes to even sponsors. Like, say you bring up a proposal and give it to a certain sponsor saying, I want to do this, I want to curate this kind of event. And then you literally see the same idea, you know, with another event organizer, with that same sponsor kind of formulated. And that's not to say that, like, people might have the same ideas, because we might, you know, once you put something into the world, then it's likely
already
that
out there.
someone also thought about it, like, why are we so special? But at the same time, you don't know, because we're also not used to the idea of an NDA. We don't sign NDAs. That's
No,
not
we
a
don't.
thing here, especially like
Even if you do, it doesn't matter. People
Doesn't
don't
it
take
not?
it seriously. No,
from a
Because,
legal sphere.
even from people don't go to court for these kind of things because going to court is such a hustle. But from my worst experience was when I gave a proposal to a sponsor, and they said, "Yeah, sure, change this and that. Let's make it more, you know, open and." And then after a while, they're like, oh, sorry, we don't have a budget and everything. And a week later, a friend of mine came with a proposal and said, yeah, so this sponsor, this company called me and said, like, do this event, like, and here's the proposal. And they gave him the proposal. So someone that worked in that company that gave it to him. And this man came with my proposal.
With your proposal.
My exact proposal.
Given to them by the sponsors that you had
already
put it in for,
Yeah.
or the company that you put it in
company
for,
I put it in
giving
for.
it to another event organizer saying, can
organizer.
you please help me organize this said event?
Exactly. And he came and he said, yeah, so they gave me this, they have a budget, can we work together? And I'm looking at the proposal going like, wait,
I wrote
hold
this.
up, I wrote this. And the thing is, like, my proposals are different. Like, I write them in a way that I
mean,
can...
yeah, everybody has a personal way, so yeah.
So, and I know, like, I could tell it was mine.
Yeah.
And I'm looking at, like, that's exactly my proposal. Like, it is mine. And I'm telling him, like, yo, this is my proposal. Like, and I didn't have to read it. I was like, it says this and this on that page, this and this on that page. And I'm like, just to confirm, just go through it and I'll tell you exactly what it says. And he just sat there like he was so baffled. And he was just in shock. He's like, yo, Adyam, I'm so sorry. Like, I didn't know.
Oh, absolutely. That's such an awkward place to be, even
like,
for the
it's
other
not your
person.
fault.
Like, yeah.
I'm like, it's not your fault, but I'm not going to help you do this.
But you did not sign an NDA agreement.
No, I did have a confidential agreement
you had a
on the
confidentiality
proposal,
agreement.
yeah.
Okay.
So the first thing, like, on the first page, there was a confidential agreement where we did sign it.
Yeah, they're called a non-disclosure agreement, right?
yeah.
Where they're not supposed to,
And then, like, I was like, I'm sorry, but like I won't help you do this, but you can do it if you want. And he's like, sorry, like I won't do it because
I'm not comfortable.
If they can do this to you, then they can do this to me, and I'm not in that support. And we're really good friends. We were really good friends back then. So he was like, I'm not gonna do this.
I mean, the thing is, so like this obviously shows one. So my question is, why didn't you, before we get into like what my, I guess, deciphering of the situation is that you didn't feel the need to go to court afterwards because of the hassle that is
the court
going through the legal system and whatnot, right? And also it's like a costly.
It is very costly. Like the fee of a lawyer is really expensive. Yeah. Going to court, like the whole hustle is very expensive because the system is not made to protect the creative sector. It's not made to protect it. Even the laws that are there are not really there.
Are put in place, yeah.
Yeah. So why am I gonna go like for months, year, just to argue that somebody
That's the other thing
idea
too. It takes
while I could work
forever.
Exactly.
Right?
When I can work on other projects, why would I go through that hustle? So I just, you calculate the risk and the time that you have to spend and all that, and you're just like, you know what? I don't give a shit anymore. Like, I'm gonna do something else.
Yeah, absolutely. That's incredible. I mean, like, you make a good point. I think this is something also like to highlight on while we're here is that, it does seem that like some of the legal spheres in which that we work with don't necessarily benefit us as creatives and don't protect us as creatives, right? Those companies, obviously, the companies that we're looking at to sponsor us are huge companies, beer companies, liquor companies, export-import companies, stuff like that. Those are your major sponsors that we're looking at. Yeah, exactly. Beer and liquor sponsors, right? So in that sense, we're definitely not protected. And you're right. The legal process is so insane that, like, especially as a young person trying to find your way in this system and kind of find your way in this sector, is quite challenging. It takes you back. It's very challenging. And then once you get into the actual legal system, it's quite scary because obviously I think this is something that we've been talked about, and if you want to research it, that you can get a lot of information, is generally doing business in Ethiopia is not easy. No, any kind of business is not easy. The legal framework of doing business is quite hard, it's quite complicated, it's quite taxing, and then also just the idea of like how you pay taxes, how, everything is just so challenging and complicated until you get into the system and get used to it. That is so hard as a young person trying to just, bounce into a business and have that framework ready where then you have, I guess, the things ready to fight that legally and whatnot, right?
It's very challenging. It's not encouraging. It's like,
absolutely not.
It literally kills your morals. Like, you're always like, at some point you're like, oh yeah, I want to do this because this is my passion. This is what I want to do with my life. But at some point you're just like, why the hell am I doing this? Like, I could get a 9-to-5 job and get paid really well, but
without the hassle of dealing with
anything, So sometimes it's just like, why?
Yeah.
Because even when I remember when I went to get a license and everything, and they didn't have the sector. They didn't have the document or the sector that I wanted.
Or whatever they had as a sector did not include
license, what I wanted.
The details of events. What your business was. Yeah, that happens a lot too.
This goes into events, that goes into this, and it goes into this. They're like, sorry, this is what we have, and if you want a license, you have to get it through this, and maybe a few years later, you can expand it. I was like, okay, like, we're not even gonna discuss and try and change things, no? Okay. Like, if you say so, I'm good.
No, you're right. It's quite a challenging process, and I think because of that, it does hurt the creatives more. And I like, when we say that, we can also talk about like different businesses. I've heard the same complaints from even freelancers, right, in general, of not having the right paperwork to be able to make sure that they get paid at an appropriate time in a legal way, in the proper framework where they can ask, okay, like, my payment's been this much and then you haven't paid me for whatever reason. And the process is so hard because, and I think we've talked about this between me and you, just the general setup of how the legal framework works is that if you are a freelancer, then obviously you have to get taxed, right?
Yeah.
If you're working. So if not, you need a TIN number. That was how it began in the beginning. But then you have a TIN number, and now a personal TIN number no longer works, so it's no longer valid.
No, it's not.
So now you have to have a company, when you have a company, you need to rent a place. And you need to have a license. Then now
you need to have a cash register. You need to have the
which
paper
means you need
receipt,
constant business because you're constantly taking out a Z report, and you need to pay a certain amount of tax after a month, exactly, and whatnot. And so even that, like as a freelance photographer or a freelance artist, to think about like renting space to be able to work is crazy because. When are you working? How often are you working? You know, where's the spaces that you're working at? And does that office make sense? Does that legal process make sense for you? Can you afford it based on the money you're making?
Yeah.
Usually, no. And so if you don't opt for that option, or don't have a friend or friends that can do that for you in a legal framework, in a legal manner, the other option is as just a person that's getting paid, now the tax becomes 30%.
Yeah.
30% tax is
a lot.
A lot.
Especially when you're getting paid minimum wage. And
sometimes you can even be getting paid more depending on the company you work with. But how often are you getting paid as a freelancer? You know what I'm saying? Because you're sustaining yourself based on payments that come 2-3 times a month, or once a month or whatever. And it might come in huger loads, and somehow you're finding other things to sustain yourself with. But still, a 30% cut on that is insane. And so for you, and it's weird to me because especially we are a country where unemployment rates are so high. So I feel, and correct me if I'm wrong, but the idea of people finding ways to work and sustain themselves in their own manner should be encouraged. Yet it happens to be very hard.
I feel like the system is made the exact same way that it's made for corporate businesses, for restaurants, cafes, bars, and it's the same for freelancers. So there is no system that is made for freelancers because people don't understand that when you're a freelancer, it doesn't mean you work every day. Mm-hmm. Like you might have
or in the same frameworks that like offices, businesses,
like people who have daily incomes. Like it doesn't work like that, but the system is made exactly the same way. It's not separated. Like you're an MC. Oh, by the way, she's an MC, an amazing one too. So.
Thank you.
So I had to just say that.
I'm not mad at it.
But yeah, so as an MC, there's no rules and regulations or a system that is made for an MC. How often do you MC? Like I've seen you the way you've worked, how much you work and everything, and it's not like you MC every day.
No,
there's no events. Yeah, there's no event every day.
Yeah.
So like the system needs to be accommodating and needs to be fixed so that it's
a comfortable environment to work in. Yeah.
So it's not made for that. Like musicians, bands, DJs, they don't work every day. Most of them maybe work like 3 times a week if they're working in a club. But other than that, they don't work every day. So if you want to pay a DJ or a band or an MC, the government or the system is telling you that you need a license and you have to have an office, you have to have a cash register, and if I'm employing you, you have to give me a receipt. If you don't have a receipt, then I take 30% off your payment, or I have to pay you an extra 30% so that we can pay tax. That is not something that will encourage people to work. And like you said, where there is so much unemployment, especially the youth is just unemployed.
Exactly.
And there's so much talent in the city, in the country in general. And you're not telling the youth, like, okay, there is another kind of work you could do. It's not just 9 to 5. Then we're just going to have unemployed people just sitting for years and years and years. We need to create a system that it is accommodating for everyone.
Yeah, we need to create solutions to our problems in a way that makes sense because, yeah, you're right. It's like the system has to be able to be conducive to the type of people that, like, are trying to be innovative, are trying to maybe look at it a different way, are trying to do things differently from themselves. It's not even sometimes about like creating a different system for other people, but at least if I can sustain myself and we can sustain ourselves, that's like 2 people off that long list of unemployed youth that are on a struggle to find, work or employment or any kind of security. And there is no safety net. And when there is no safety net, then especially as you get older, that becomes like, oh, okay. So maybe I should figure out a different route, or a different methodology or a different...
Forget my dreams.
Forget my dreams or just kind of put that as an extra thing that I do because, like we said, not everybody can afford to be like, oh, okay, perfect, I MC enough, or I sing enough, or I, have enough business as a drummer, guitarist, an artist, a photographer, a painter, like long list of like creatives as a writer and all these things. And so so what happens is you kind of just find little ways to do it, and it's great because that's something that I think maybe we don't even talk about in Ethiopia, but because we kind of talking about the legal framework and maybe looking at a different side of this is now because of social media and because of the internet connection in general, there are other ways to make money.
Yeah.
Right? Especially if you're like a content creator, if you are a musician or whatever, like through YouTube channels and different like social medias that'll pay you depending on how much followers you have and whatnot. But even that yet is not, first of all, because of our internet connection, the affordability or whatever, that's not something that's easy to do, right? But then second off, I realized that's not something that a lot of people even understand as a youth as a money-making thing. Hasn't really settled, right? It's definitely something fun that everybody's getting to. Everybody's like opening up a YouTube channel, everybody's a little more active on Instagram or sponsoring, and I've seen it. There's a rise in people that are trying to monetize on that internet sphere, but yet it hasn't really been tapped into.
It hasn't been tapped to, and even the payment terms are not easy because the bank system is still not
through a foreign account. Yeah, it has to be through a foreign account. How they get paid.
Foreign account, and it's still, the bank system still hasn't figured a way to cater to the freelancers. Because if you want to open a foreign account, you have to have so many things that you have to provide, like paperwork. And most of the youth cannot do that.
You cannot.
So it's still like insurances, bank systems, tax systems. All that is still not. It's not catering to the youth or the freelancers in general. And I feel like economists in the country, like people in these systems, haven't seen that side, that it's a money-making sector, or no, not even money-making sector. It's like money-making. It's a sector that can make a lot of money, but they don't see it like that.
That hasn't been tapped into in general as a country. Yeah,
it hasn't been tapped into. And to me, it feels like it's because the older generation still sees this creative sector as a hobby and not as a business. It's not something they can capitalize on. They think it's just a phase that the youth is going through, and they will come back to being, doctors engineers, lawyers and all that your teacher told you have to be when you were a kid.
That was a good description. Okay, go ahead. I saw other words kind of surfacing around your head, but you chose really, what did I say, with tender.
Yeah, because I remember when I was a kid, like I said I wanted to be a writer, and then my teacher was like, what? No, like pick doctor, engineer, lawyer. And then I was like, what does a lawyer do? I remember my teacher telling me what a lawyer does, and I was like, oh, so you argue with people. Interesting, I want that one. I wanted to be a lot of things, but at some point I was pushed to think that I wanted to be a lawyer. And as I grew up, I realized I don't want to be a lawyer. So I wanted to be a journalist. And then I realized again that what am I passionate about was events. I like bringing people together. So I was like, you know what, this is my dream and this is what I want to do. It hasn't been an easy road, but we're still pushing because I love it. And I think events literally is something the world needs. Music is important for the human soul. So yeah.
Absolutely. I was going to tap into something you were saying in the sense of like, essentially what I was trying to say is that in terms of like event organizing, whatever, you're saying that we have a lack of respect for creatives. We have a lack of respect of the importance of art in our communities and in our country as a whole, I think, because you're right, the way we still talk about artists or, musicians, the language that we have to describe them, like, is still very backwards. And sometimes, even in terms of events, sometimes we fail to see what it does for our country, right? Like, events is a huge way to make money and market for a country. It's a huge way to bring tourism into the country. It's a huge way to share art and to share different kinds of like cultures and traditions, different kinds of sounds, different kinds of, it depends on what sector you're working on. Like I said, festival specifically, so through music, but general exchange of culture is so important. especially in a physical state, because now, especially with social media, we're sharing so much. So to actually bring it in a physical state, I think is so, so, so important. And I don't think that we've really tapped into these different things yet. And like you were saying, I think when we're talking about generally the bureaucracy, the law and how that works, and law officers and whatnot, you can see it because of even like the lack of support you have, right?
Yeah.
For example, let's just kind of take it back to our own sector, but like when you do an event and you've planned an event, the amount of like hassle that it takes for you to get a permit, and then even after all that, 2 days before your event, everything can get shut down on a flip of an
We've
instant.
seen
Like
that
you
happen
didn't
a few
pay.
times.
That's what I'm saying. Like you didn't pay, hundreds and thousands of dollars for a foreign artist there, and like didn't spend the past 3 months working on an event. And sometimes even this nature in which we work was very, very, very disheartening, and it's very exhausting, and it's very, you kind of lack, then you start like losing that push to even do this, because it just kind of just tires you out. It drains you, exactly. And so even like some conversations that I've had with like legal parties in terms of like bringing festivals here or just working on a big huge event here, whatever, is just like, yeah, no, we don't want to get involved. It's not that serious. It doesn't concern us and whatnot. And the reason they feel that way is because the idea that we still have of like our mentality is still reggae music equates to smoking weed.
Yeah.
Like sometimes the conversations that you hear is that photography is still just people taking pictures. Like,
but it's not.
It's not. It's ways of documenting, archiving. It's ways of telling stories. There's so much depth. Art in general is really, I think, a way of showing where people are now, where the society is now, how people are thinking now, how people are feeling now, and a way of archiving that. So eventually going forward, like look at what we look at now in the past. We look at people that took photographs and photography to look at what was going on in the past or how people looked at things. We look at artists to show us, the vibe of things then. We use artists to almost enhance certain feelings. When you have art on the road, or when you have artists come and show certain aspects, it's really giving you a feel of, like, certain artists, for example, here focus on showing certain parts of like Piazza and whatever. That's been a huge thing that I really like to look at, because Piazza's changing now, and that feel, that whatever, so captured in the essence of some of those paintings that,
like photography, paintings,
music.
Videos are a way of traveling back to time.
Absolutely.
Without actually...
Even music.
Yeah, even music.
Yeah.
Movies, like everything. It's a way, like, if we document these things and we archive them, it is, when we look back, like the way we look back from like American movies or European movies and stuff like that, or pictures from the Western world, we're looking at things that happened back then, and we're like, oh my God, this is the way it was, this is how it is now. And it's like you're actually traveling back to time.
That, and also creating conversation now, creating dialogue now, creating discourse now. I think artists have a huge way of rattling up what's going on, so people can actually have an actual conversation what's going on, because art sometimes has a way of like challenging you in a different way that most things are able to, right? So it is also a way to have discourse right now that's very important. And so I don't know if we see that yet and identify yet and respect it for what it is yet. And so I think as a country sometimes we do fail ourselves by really putting it down. And because there is so much talent here, it's sad because you don't see it fostered, encouraged, and just like taken care of.
We're not a country that's able to express ourselves.
Oh, that in itself also, because art's expression, right?
Art is expression, music is expression, movies are a way of expressing yourself or what your mind is thinking. So we never really like grew up, or we didn't live in a society that was able to express themselves.
We're not free.
We're not free, and we're
very constricted society.
It's also the fact that we care so much about what other people think that we are not able to express ourselves, even with fashion. Like, you dress a certain way and people will call you crazy. Like, that is it's very common.
Absolutely.
You have your
too much jewelry and you're at the
exactly. Girl, who you're telling?
Like, girl, I know. I've been called voodoo, witchcraft, and everything in between.
Like, I've been wearing my head wrap since
turbans are a drama in themselves. Yeah. Like,
I've had my hair in an afro. I wear a lot of jewelry. I've been called a witch. I've been called crazy.
Yeah,
I've been called...
my afro's gotten me a lot of those crazy comments too.
The most common thing is elektrikita snödashor.
Oh, I love that one.
Yeah.
That's my favorite. I'm like, what?
It's an afro. This is how my hair is supposed to be. Like, I washed it and I left the house. It has a mind of its own. Let it be. But growing up, we've never been able to express ourselves in ways.
Absolutely.
For me, I'd say I'm very privileged because at some point my mom was like, do you? Mm-hmm. So even though she controls a few things, she's still like, do you? So I feel like I'm very privileged in that sense, and I'm very thankful for her. I leave my house and outside it's like, like
everything.
It's
everything is
like,
criticized. Everything is looked at.
Criticized.
Any kind of level of expression is too much. Like any level of like individuality
is it's pushed. It's not respected.
Yeah, it's too much. It's crazy. It's wild. It's just so out of our quote unquote culture.
Exactly. It's that thing.
So not our culture.
It's not our culture. It is the most common thing. It is not our culture. You're not supposed to act like this. You're not supposed to do this.
You're not supposed to wear this. You're not supposed to walk like this.
Speak like this. Sit like this.
All of it.
It's a long list. But all that actually comes into the whole creative sector, where if the society cannot express itself in a free way, then of course they're not going to respect the creative sector to be expressive. So at the end of the day, it comes to that respect of a person being able to be who they want to be.
Freedom of expression.
Yes, we don't have that.
The respect for freedom of expression.
So we don't have that.
Interesting. I don't think I saw it that way, but I think you might be right with that one. Because of our lack of freedom of expression in general, it does make it harder for artists to be able to express themselves in that free nature. Also because of, I guess, the level of like criticism that comes with that. Kind of going with a lot of the criticism and being, because I kind of wanted this to tie into being respected as a creative, apart from like the creative side in which your process of creation is criticized, just from a professional sphere too. I think that there is a huge lack of appreciation for creatives, and that's kind of what we were talking about with the photography, whatever. But then, even apart from that, like maybe you don't understand what that holds as an art form, but even the level in which like freelancers are treated like, oh yeah, can you come work for me? And it's because, it really, 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 really help you, and it really promote you. Like
exposure.
Child.
You'll get exposure.
It's
not even they even write you like they don't even give you papers. They don't even give you certificates to say
no, they'll take a picture of you. They're very sweet. They'll take a picture of you and post it online. But my guy.
That's because you bring them exposure. If they post a picture of you on social media and say Milu was at our event or Milu is hosting our event, it's because they know people will come because you're hosting. And that's not them giving you exposure. It's you that's giving them exposure.
Well, when you're directing it to me, it makes it hard for me to continue on that conversation, so I'm going to switch it up. But what I'm going to say is you do have a valid point in saying it is a common... We're both exchanging things, and as long as you're hiring me, and I think that, to anybody that owns a business, this is something that I'm going to really say to you, is creatives coming together and exchanging talent, I can understand. Yeah. Do you understand what I'm saying? Like, I'll MC for you if you photograph me for free, or like, you can, if you perform somewhere for me, then I will make sure for your next event that, like, because there's also something in the creative sector where a lot of us are not making enough money for us to exchange money, but we can definitely do that in our skill sets, right?
Exchange skill sets.
Absolutely. Yes. But as a business, when you come to me, it's a service that you absolutely need, right? Yeah. So if you need that service, just shut up and pay me. And I've gotten this, and the reason I kind of wanted to really point that out is because I've gotten this from companies that, like, for example, for me, we're quote unquote supposed to support women, and they were supposed to uplift women, whatever, right? And then will come to me and be like, oh no, it's because we're coming together as women to really intend. And then you go there and they're charging in the hundreds to go in, however much for tables. And I'm like, what are you talking about? Because the main way that you can support me is say, hey, as a woman, you're doing this. And especially in an environment that's so controlled or like dominated by men, that I want to support you. You put that money in my pocket, then you're really supporting me.
Exactly.
But to say that, oh no, we're gonna really put you in a cute dress in front of important people and we're gonna clap for you, get the heck out my face with that. Or you can show your photography somewhere and then, you know, we're gonna sell it for you, but like, or whatever narrative that you find. And a lot of it is, like I said, oh, we're gonna give you exposure, but then come and give us your service. And that really goes to the lack of understanding or respect for freelancers as a whole, creatives as a whole. And I really think that that's something that a lot of companies and individuals should look at themselves at and be like, okay, what am I doing? Because
it still comes down to the fact that people do not respect this sector. They want to be in it. They want to do it. They think it's a trend. It's cool. And they think it makes money because they don't know the hustle. But at the end, they really don't have the respect for it. They really don't have for the people in the creative sectors. They don't have respect for the photographers, MCs, DJs, bands. They want to pay the minimum they could pay and make 300 times profit. So it all comes down to
you know what I love?
Not having respect.
You know what I love? Some of the things that I love, right? For example, because I manage a DJ, right? I remember this one lady once hired. I went as a manager and I was talking to her and she was like, Andy, she's just mixing music. I was like, what? I was so shook because I was like, wait, what do you think she's doing? You really must think she's on iTunes, like play, pause, next, play, pause, next. Or if you don't, then you're even more disrespectful because maybe at least if you don't know, I can somehow like excuse that because I guess maybe you don't know the art form of what it means to produce or DJ or whatnot. But again, like it's just sometimes we just don't even know what that job, what that specific title actually entails, and understanding that like
it's like saying a doctor is just giving medicine.
Yeah, I mean, it's just giving you an injection. You know,
it's just an injection. It's just medicine.
Like, you know,
what are
I
they
could
doing?
do it. Like, and I don't know. It's just there's a level of like disrespect, and that's something that I think we need to also. I think sometimes also when we are respecting ourselves, I think there's a level of that too. Because one thing that I did want to get into when we're talking about like generally disrespecting is, I think that we also have a huge level of like. So let me just kind of drive it back to specifically event organizing, right? In Ethiopia, I feel like, or in Addis more specifically, I feel like there's such a level of like complacency and laziness and lack of respect for that also. And actually not just event organizers, but musicians also.
For the business.
And the art form in which we are working in, right? When it comes to event organizers. There's a huge problem in mediocrity, coordination, respect, accountability, and just generally being responsible for the space that you have created. Musicians, I MC, so obviously I'm not gonna call names and you know, get that drama started on this Goodfella podcast. But
hey, Goodfella,
Goodfella, for real. But yeah, so like I've had artists literally not come for like 2 hours on a show, and like damn near 5,000 people are waiting for you, or 1,000 people are waiting for you, or whatever, like fans. And there is a level of disrespect or lack of respect, or just like treating it as such a they're gonna wait, or of course they're gonna want to come in and whatnot in the sector too. And sometimes I feel like, yeah, of course, if we're going to treat it as such, the people that are meant to facilitate this, sponsor this, help us, whatever, are also going to treat it as such, because there's also an investment there, right? So if you cannot make that investment worth it, then of course, the hell am I going to invest my money in? Yeah. Because like, for example, like one person that I have mad respect for in terms of event, because that was like, I think a huge momentum shift in terms of event organizing, is when Rofnan had his concert once in Addis, in Gyon, and he had his concert and started, I think it was even like mad early. A bunch of people came, almost sold out. Were they sold out? I'm not sure.
I'm not sure, but I think it was sold out because people couldn't get in.
Yeah, it was pandemonium.
There was a huge chaos.
Yeah. So what happened is they started a new payment system, and I guess there was like kind of like a mess at the door, and then of course, being Ethiopia, the feds got involved, people start pushing, people got hit, a bunch of people didn't come in, but after all that, he had his concert, you know, did his thing, whatever, and you know, Rofnan, he has like his own concert. He's the only, like, he's the actual show, so he did his thing, but then came back the next morning, apologized on his social media for all the people that couldn't get in, took accountability, did another show, and made sure that everybody else that had paid and had a ticket had a different show. Yeah. I think if I can pinpoint any moment, that was when, for the first time, I saw someone take accountability and respect the people that respected him enough to come.
Exactly.
And that's what it is. People respected you and loved you enough to come and pay to come see you.
Respected
How
the
dare
people.
you? Yeah, you not respect them. But he actually respected that and took accountability for that. Put another event in a different venue and then did what he had to do. And I really, in this moment, want to give a big shout out to Rofnan, because I think that was like an important lesson to everyone in like the event organizing community.
I feel like he changed everything. He
Yeah.
kind of shifted the whole event aspect of this event life, because for me also that was such a shock, because we've seen concerts like happen before his concert where people couldn't get in, events have been canceled and everything, and
I can make a whole list.
and people didn't take accountability for
Absolutely not.
They didn't care about the people that bought tickets, they didn't care about the people that went to see the show, like artists not showing
Completely.
up,
Artists not showing up, and they still won't be like, yo, you know, my bad, this is why, we'll make it up to you and X, Y, and Z. No.
But he did that, and I really appreciate the fact that he didn't just respect his fans, he respected his work, and he respected the whole sector to say, okay, this happens, but we're gonna find a way to make sure we don't disappoint you. And that gave me like a high standard. Like, I'm like, okay, if he did that, then we have to do high. We gotta be better.
Yeah,
like,
or else we gotta.
There's no way down from
Not
this.
even just better, but we have to take this lesson and say, hey, actually, no, I don't know why nobody, you know, did
ever
it so
thought
far.
about this.
Yeah, but this is like an important thing, and you know, we learned from it now.
We have to be like, we have to take him as an example and always try to do as good as he does or better than he does, because there's no way of going back for any event after this. Like, it has to be as good. Like, he's such an example. He's like a role model. Like, and like you said, shout out
in a lot
to
of
Rofnan,
ways.
in a lot of ways.
In a lot of ways, Rofnan is
even
an example.
his music,
and
like,
of course,
his music is the only one that I've seen where it went from the young generation to the old generation. Everybody listened to. Nobody criticized the fact that it was different. People appreciated the fact that it was different. Like, when his album came out, it was being played everywhere.
Yo, I mean, it's still being played everywhere.
It's still being played everywhere.
I swear, the thing is, I don't think that there has been more than 3-4 days this past where I'm not driving bus somewhere and you don't listen to Rofnan's track.
But you listen to everyone. Every age is listening to his music.
Absolutely true.
Which also is making people, kind of in a way, see that there is potential
for different kinds of genres of music. Absolutely.
And I appreciate him for that.
A different sound.
And it's not considered just
See,
or craziness.
Rofnan, you just gotta come to this show so we can really get into all of this with you.
Please.
Like, it's not fair that we're sitting here and talking about you for this long. So what you need to do is you need to come to the show,
and let's
so
do
we
an
can.
episode on you.
You know what I'm saying? Like, that's what we need to be doing.
We really do.
You know, we're plugging you in. I love how we just put people on a spot.
Well, we got.
This is how you get what you want.
But yeah, so I respect Rofnan in so many ways.
Yeah.
And anyone that's doing events, like, I have so much respect for everyone. We need to respect the sector. We need to come together and find ways to make it better. If it's not for us, for the next generation. Or else we're just going to be stuck in the same place.
Same loop. Like, that's so true. Everybody keeps complaining about, like, obviously, and that's something too that I don't understand, right? Everybody has the same complaint, but we're still not doing better. And I think that's one thing, like, even above and beyond respect, like, I think that we should be, you know, we always talk about, like, people copycatting and whatever, but, like, that's annoying also because we're not setting a higher standard. And so if we're just all gonna take the same ideas and do the same bullshit things, then it doesn't work. Setting a higher standard for our city is extremely important, and we all need to be a factor in that movement or in that whatever, because we all have to take responsibility in what we're creating, right? We need to want better. So that's kind of what I meant with mediocrity. Like, there is a level of clubs literally are all the same and they still are packed with business. People keep saying we're all sick and tired of clubs, but don't have enough events, so we go there. The events that are there end up being like
the exact same thing all
the
the time.
exact same thing all the time. And then it's also, there's like lack of effort. But again, because we don't have enough funds, because there's not enough places to go, you'll still end up having to go towards these events. And then there you see some few people trying to do something different, like eclectic, or just like kind of mess around with things. And yeah, there is a little amount of success when there is, but for some reason there's not enough people pushing towards something different, right?
Yeah.
We still want to repeat the same things, and that's not something that's just in the creative sector. Like, you go around Addis and you open up your Hins Amasada or building construction onton, and then
it's everything. You open
the 10
boutique. Everything is a boutique.
So that like copycat culture, or repeating something that we assume are like a spike in business right now, is something that's very, very common to our city, right? Yeah. So I don't know, but when it comes to creatives, we're the ones that are supposed to be doing different. So, you know, another thing that really makes me sad, and like, especially why it's so important to me in terms of like entertainment and just, I have a friend in Nigeria that works there, and she hit me up once, and she was just like, how do we connect Africans that are traveling through Ethiopia to the cool side? Because she was so sick and tired of the amount of Nigerians that were coming back, her friends that were coming back and just saying like, at least nightlife is so boring. And she was just so frustrated by that. And she's like, yo, you do events, so please, like, let's figure out a way to navigate all these people that are coming from everywhere and maybe see something different, because this repetitive notion that I hear
about nightlife.
But that's what I'm saying. But the thing is also, it's like, we know the hot spots and we know the ins and outs of whatever because we're so deep in it. But that's even hard to figure out. What's new, what's different, where can people go is also very hard to figure out. And like the notion that everybody else has, like in terms of like, because you have to understand also, because of Ethiopian Airlines, the amount of people that go through Addis is insane. So to think that all those people have this like notion to our nightlife is so terrible.
Yeah, it is, but it's also the fact that for me, I'm tired of Addis nightlife, and I'm tired of it because I was telling you last time we went out, and it was 2 days in a row where I heard the exact same playlist from 2 different DJs
in 2 different
places. But it was so crazy because
so true.
I knew the playlist by heart. Like I knew the song that was about to come on.
I just want to say to our listeners, she's not even playing. Like, this is not an over-exaggeration of what happens. Like, I really genuinely believe there's, like, one set playlist that's been given to all these club DJs.
It's just circling around.
I'm dead serious. Everybody just was like, here.
But the craziest thing wasn't, Addis wasn't like that. I remember a few years back when I used to go out, like, people went out for the music. People used to go out to listen to a certain DJ playing to a place because there was a dance floor. It was just a vibe. Now people just go out to drink and just hang out with their friends because there's no other place to go. And the DJs are just, I feel like they're tired.
So yeah, you're right. I think DJs might be a little tired of, I don't know, having to do the same things, or is it maybe a lack of DJs that's making them also tired because they have to repeat the same?
There's a lack of DJs, and I also feel like it's the lack of people now. The people will go to a place and they will not listen to something new. They rather listen to music that has been playing for the past 10 years.
I disagree with you. You know why I disagree with you? Because I feel like that's been the same excuse that I've heard from a lot of DJs or whatever, and I think that's partly, I mean, obviously you can't just expect to just bring a new sound and completely, work on that. For example, let's take the very example of Chuchu Promotions. Yeah, Chuchu Promotions does Bira Biro, and a big shout out to them because they're doing like an amazing job and they've been able to acquire a lot of people, but they also do Full House. Yeah. Full House is a very different sound. They don't have like a huge influx of people. I'm pretty sure the only reason why they do it so much is for the love of that specific music and trying to, I guess, have a different sound play in Addis. Needless to say, of course, that environment also isn't as inviting to the general public, but also it's just also a very different sound that even my friends don't really like to mess with. Like, I'm just like, let's go. They're like, yeah, I don't feel like listening to like techno or EDM or da-da-da, and it's fine. But there is a clientele there, and there's also a clientele when someone once a year has the coronation party of Haile Selassie, and there's like 4 reggae parties back to back. There's space for that. So I don't think that it's like there's a lack of interest in different sounds, it's just that's going to take a little bit of effort. And it's so easy to play Burna Boy 5 times a night. So,
which I don't mind, but
I mean, I love Burna too, but
even for me,
that's what I'm saying. Like, I'm like, oh, Burna, I'm sorry, I don't even want to listen to you today because that's all I heard all night, you know?
And it's also for me personally, it's what I listen throughout the day. And when I go to a club, I would like to listen to something different.
Exactly.
But why I said I feel like the reason they're just tired is because of the people that go to the clubs, especially, I'm specifically talking about clubs.
The club
scene. Yeah, I've heard people go like, so-and-so's such an amazing DJ. And I've heard the DJ play the same playlist for like a year. And they'll still tell you that DJ is the most amazing DJ. And I'm like, but by now you know their playlist by heart.
But that's what I'm saying. That's a matter of taste. But also, as I think a DJ, as an entertainer, for example, because we're specifically talking about DJs right now, you have the responsibility, for me, and I might be wrong in this, but to try and do something different, to introduce people to something different, right? Like,
I agree.
Music
100%.
has a power of like really opening up and broadening your mind. It's almost like, especially when you're listening to music from different places and different sounds and different cultures that are represented in that music, then it also opens your mind to different things. And so I think it is on the DJ to find a happy medium in which they can do something a little different and test the waters. I feel like it's so easy, like I said, to play Burna Boy 5 times and then play, Wizkid and Tiwa and back to back.
Yeah.
And then just hop onto a Tigrinya song for 11 minutes. That, they keep doing the same thing. And I don't know. There are very few spaces where you can go and it's like, I heard something different, or it was a different vibe, or, I danced different.
It's been a while.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that a lot has to do with also event curation. So I kind of wanted to take this conversation into an event curation thing. There is a lack of curation. There's a lack of curation. Our idea of an event is, and I'm talking about this because like multiple people have called me off this, like, oh, can we have an event next Saturday? All we got to do is book 2 DJs and have a speaker.
It doesn't work like that.
Or it can, but then what? It's
gonna be the same thing.
That's what I'm saying.
Might as well go to a club.
Yeah, like the curation and the understanding that like, really curating an event and bringing things together has a purpose. Like you create a vibe, you have a lineup that flows, you give someone an experience, not just like visually but auxiliary too in the space that you create. I'm sorry, but it's not a big deal that you can take up different spaces and just put new DJs and let's go. It's like, yeah, it's cool, fine, but I might as well just have a playlist too and call it a party. Like, why not? I just have a bunch of people that like Erykah Badu and Joss Stone and we good to go, girl. Like, call me DJ MTV. Let's go. I'm dead
That would be your DJ name, by the way.
That would be my DJ name,
For
guys.
me, it has been like there's a few things. When we go to clubs, it's the club owners telling the DJs what to play. People that go to the clubs telling the DJs what to play. So the DJs will just play what the people want. And if you talk to the DJs on their own, these are people who have lists and lists and lists of new songs, but you never hear them playing it at the clubs. Because going back to my earlier statement saying they're just tired, because if they want to play something new or they want to introduce people to something new,
they don't feel like people are responsive.
People are not responsive, and the owners will tell them that they have to
switch it
play.
back. Yeah,
like the owner will go and say, yeah, so I like can you play Chop My Money? I missed that song, or I like that song. That song has been played for the past 10 years.
Girl, I'm tired of that song. I'm tired of that song.
You go out tomorrow and you'll still hear that song because
but you're right, this goes back to also the respect of creatives as a creative. Exactly. Like, who are you to go and literally give your playlist to a DJ and also call him or call her a DJ and be like, oh, do your thing. Like, you're right.
And then going back, the second problem would be event curation. People just throwing a party, just having 2-3 DJs play whatever they want to play or what they want them to play is an event. And it's something to be like so proud of. It's not. And third, we have lack of DJs. We have a lack of creatives in in the country, because a lot of people they're very talented. I'm not going to deny that. We have a lot of talent in the country, but
they haven't come out.
They haven't come out yet. So those who came out and are in this business and working are very limited.
So that's saturated very much.
Yeah. So everywhere you go, you have the same artists. And of course, at some point, people are going to get tired.
Absolutely.
Even if I want to do a different event that is different, there's a very limited number of DJs that are different. So I'm always going to use them. So unless we, again, respect this business, promote it enough, market it enough, so there are more people coming into this business, then it's just going to be the same loop over and over and over again.
Absolutely. Those were like great points to honestly end this, because you just like top them down. But event curation being a huge part, so having some respect for how we do it, and honestly even setting a standard, and even for people that are going to events and stuff. And I understand why that's hard, because there's not enough events, like we talked about earlier, for us to pick and choose. But if we are going to say we are so tired of it, I don't know, demand something, guys.
Let's do something different.
Even in the comments, go and let us know what sounds you want to hear, what kind of things you want involved in your events, especially if you are living in,
this community
or in Addis or whatever. Then we will definitely try and spread this. So let us know what you guys also kind of want to, see and, kind of want in your city. And maybe that's something that we can also bounce off, because there's definitely a need for some guidance, and also maybe a dialogue between who's going to these things, who's the consumer of these things, and who's giving out these things. Or, girl, you guys know what I'm saying. Anyways, we love y'all, but this is kind of what we wanted to talk about in terms of
but before we
events.
Yes, I wanted to say something. I wanted to say that it's also the fact that we do not have enough spaces. We don't have enough venues to do different things. We don't have enough spaces, and especially in Addis, because I can speak for Addis because we're here and we work here. And if we don't have those spaces, of course, for me, I feel like we're always going to be in the same box to do the exact same thing, because our mind even is not going to be open enough to do something different. As event organizers, as creatives, freelancers, let's get together, let's figure out ways to do more and market this in a way that it will benefit us, it will benefit everyone in the creative sector, and it would benefit the country as well. That's what I wanted to add.
Absolutely. No, I'm glad you added that, because I'm glad we didn't leave the podcast without kind of mentioning that, because there is a huge lack of space in terms of, like you're saying, the big events. Like, you could literally count down the 3-4 places where you can have a big concert. When you're speaking of little events, you're always trying to find some restaurant here, some lounge there, some da-da-da here that you're trying to work with. And even that becomes obviously, I think, its own process for multiple reasons that we'll get into, but some other time. Definitely not right now. But let's create more and more and more for the city in terms of entertainment, in terms of jobs, and in terms of accessibility, because I think all those things are important for our city, where there's so much youth trying to create, innovate, build, and really just be self-sustaining.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yes.
So I think this is where we're going to wrap it up, girl.
Yes, we are.
So make sure y'all subscribe, and share our podcast. I hope you guys are enjoying it. So many episodes coming your way, but we love y'all, and that was this show, guys.
Yes, follow us at _Goodfella on YouTube and SoundCloud, and also on Instagram. Let us know what you think. Comment, like she said, subscribe, and share.
Yes, ma'am. All right, people, we love you. Mwah. All right, ladies and gentlemen, I hope you enjoyed our podcast. That was a pre-recorded podcast from a while ago that we are just publishing. So due to the fact that a lot has kind of changed in the city and in the country in the meantime, we did kind of want to slowly address that, and just have that kind of be the ending of podcast episode 2.
Yes.
So do you kind of want to start maybe?
Yeah, so we are recording this to say we are deeply hurt and saddened by the things that are happening in our country, and we hope everyone stays safe and everyone is praying for peace. And also we wanted to say that we're sending out our condolences to the families that have lost friends and families in the Wallaga region with what happened recently, and we're sending out our prayers to everyone.
Absolutely. Essentially what she said, really giving all our love and our condolences to the families and friends of all the people that lost their lives in the Wallaga region a 2 days back, I think. And reports are showing different numbers, so we really didn't want to get into that. But women and children also died. And whenever life is lost, I think, especially in this kind of major way, and because of things like ethnic violence, especially in our own country, we really need to take a time out and reflect on that. Also, I believe that internet and phone lines are down because of things that are happening in the Tigray region. So we also hope that everyone there is safe. And we really just pray for unity and stability. And also we really push and urge people to have dialogue and discourse, even though you do not share the same political views. Sit down, listen to each other and talk, because we really, really need to talk, and we really need to go back to really seeing each other as one and uniting as one. And discourse, I think, is really the only way, and communicating with each other is the only way. And I know everyone is like emotional, but we really, really need to sit and talk. And we just hope really for...
we hope for peace, and please let's be open to having more discussions about politics and religion, because the world does not need more violence than what we already have. We hope that everyone stays safe. Yes. We pray for Ethiopia, and we hope to see a united Ethiopia.
Yep. Sending you love and positive vibrations. Again, thank you for listening to our Goodfella podcast. Make sure you guys like, subscribe, and you follow us at _Goodfella, and we'll hope to have more conversation and dialogue.
Yes,
ma'am. All right, guys, bye.